What's your name? Bob. Stookie.
This is the real world, Bob.
Not everything has to mean something.
No, it doesn't have to, but it can.
Nah, this is a nightmare. And nightmares end. You know, when you found me out on that road, I almost kept walking.
Why is that?
Because I was done being a witness. Bad things happened because I was scared. They were good people. All of them. When I got to the prison, I thought to myself, how long? How long until everyone else is dead and I'm on my own?
Why are you smiling?
I just want to say thank you.
For what?
Before the prison, I didn't know if there were any good people left.
Bob Stookie is a character who made a big impact on the show during the short duration he was on it. And although the character's story ends in heartbreak, I believe Bob is the most accurate representation of a realistic survivor that we get within the show. So let's go over some of the reasons why Bob Stookie is the most realistic character in The Walking Dead. Pre-apocalypse Bob was a medic in the US military and battled with an addiction to alcohol. After the world falls, he is left the only survivor in his group and he has to watch the ones he loves die around him. After this, he battles with survivor's guilt and he wanders the world all by himself, wondering, is he the only survivor left? Until Glenn and Daryl find him and bring him back to the prison in episode 30 Days Without an Accident. And after causing the death of Zach in a supply run due to slipping back into alcoholism, he is yet again left haunted by his actions. This is when Bob decides to change and starts to take up a bigger role within the group. And after the fall of the prison, he is left with Maggie and Sasha. And it's during this trip to Terminus that him and Sasha start to form a relationship, eventually becoming partners. Towards the end of season 4, we really start to see the optimistic side of Bob, and he becomes a beacon of hope for our group as he truly believes that the world will recover from the apocalypse. Unfortunately, after reuniting with our group after Terminus, he is then bitten by a walker in the food bank while out looking for supplies, but he doesn't tell anyone before that night being abducted by Gareth and his men. And when Bob wakes up, one of his legs is missing and Gareth and his people are eating it over a fire, and this is when Bob says the famous line,
I've been bitten, you stupid pricks! I'm tainted meat.
This line is a fan favourite and showed even in his most vulnerable state, Bob still found a way to find the positive in the situation. After Gareth and his crew are dispatched by Rick and co, Bob gets to live out his final few hours surrounded by his new post-apocalyptic family as he eventually takes his last breath. I think the character of Bob is loved so much by fans because everyone can see a bit of themselves within the character. He's happy and optimistic, but he also struggles immensely with loneliness and self-judgment. But no matter what, Bob always perseveres and finds a way to deal with whatever comes his way. Let's take Bob's alcohol addiction for example. This is a widespread problem that affects millions in the real world, and it's the first and only time addiction is represented within the main show. Nearly 1 in 10 adults suffer from alcoholism, and this is the only character out of the hundreds of characters we meet across the 11 seasons that is actively shown to fight an addiction of some kind. Now, obviously not everyone is addicted to something, but outside of this trait, Bob is still very realistic, and the way he wanders around by himself alone with his thoughts, it's just all very human. And I mean, when Daryl and Glenn come across him, Bob is just starstruck that there are other people alive in this world. Bob Stookie is so well written, and he is a character we grow to sympathize for and accept despite his problems. He does such a good job of depicting what an average person would look like in this scenario. And I know my opinion is echoed amongst the fan base as Bob has a large following, and I see lots of people saying how much they miss the character of Bob within the show. But I think the death of Bob is possibly the most real part of his character, as he doesn't have plot armor. He's just a regular guy stuck in the apocalypse who eventually meets his demise. I think with Bob's death, fans felt like a bit of realism was lost within the show, and many fans felt that Bob died way too soon. And obviously I would have loved to have seen Bob survive longer within the show, but the impact he had in just the 1 season was profound, and the fan base the character built up within just a single season is something I don't think I've seen replicated within the main show. Bob's death was tragic, but it was also realistic. I think many people would like to believe that in an apocalypse they would be like Rick or Daryl, but I actually believe that Bob is a more accurate representation of the average human. He isn't this superhuman who survives every situation that's thrown at him and taking down tons of bad guys. He's just a guy trying to survive, and I think that's what makes the character so compelling. He's such a well-written character who's dealt with stuff pre and post-apocalypse and has lived through some harrowing times. He's a kind-hearted, compassionate survivor who deals with the mental side of the apocalypse that isn't often tackled within The Walking Dead, as we see inside the character's psyche. It's a refreshing turn of pace for the show and a great depiction of what living in this world would really be like. We never really saw a character like Bob ever again after his death. I think the only character in the franchise that is even comparable to Bob is Nick Clark from Fear, as they are both truly unique characters, and I think they give the most accurate representation of a true survivor. But thank you so much for watching and all of the support recently. I've just hit 600 subscribers and I can't thank you all enough. So please hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and I'll see you next time.